So, for context, I live in a pretty quiet residential area. My bedroom window faces a small playground right across the street. Nothing special, just a couple of swings, a slide, and a sandbox. Kids play there during the day, but by the time evening rolls around, it's usually empty. At least it should be. It started with the swing. One evening, I was sitting on my bed scrolling through my phone when I happened to glance out the window. One of the swings was moving. Not just a little, like really swinging as if someone had just jumped off of it mid-motion. The other swing next to it was completely still. There was no one there. I watched for a few minutes, expecting to see a stray cat or maybe a gust of wind, but the trees weren't moving and the other swing never budged. It freaked me out a little, but I convinced myself it was nothing. Just the wind, right? Then it happened again and again. For the next week, I kept seeing that damn swing moving on its own every evening. But then one night something changed. I was pulling an all-nighter for an upcoming exam. It was around 2 a.m. and I was exhausted, running on nothing but caffeine and panic. My desk is right next to my window, so I had a clear view of the playground. That's when I saw him. A small figure sitting on the swing. At first, I thought I was hallucinating from lack of sleep, but no, there was definitely a kid there. The dim glow from the streetlight barely reached the playground, but I could make out his tiny body swinging gently back and forth. His face was turned downward, so I couldn't see his features clearly. I remember thinking, what the hell is a kid doing here this late? I kept watching, waiting for some adult to show up and tell him to go home. But no one came. He just kept swinging. This became a thing. Every few nights I'd see the swing move. Sometimes the kid would be there. Sometimes the swing would just be empty, moving by itself. I tried to brush it off. Maybe he was some neighborhood kid sneaking out at night? But something about it never felt right. A few weeks later, I decided to take my dog for a walk in the evening. The sun was setting and a few people were still around. I don't know what possessed me to go near the playground. I think I just wanted to confirm for myself that it was just a normal kid, nothing creepy. At the playground, there was an older woman sitting on a bench with her granddaughter. Feeling weirdly nervous, I asked her casually, "Hey, do you know who that kid is? The one who always swings at night." She gave me this look. "You've seen him too?" she asked, her voice quiet. That's when she told me. 3 years ago, a little boy from our neighborhood was abducted. His parents searched for him for days, but the worst happened. His body was found right there in that playground. His parents were so devastated they moved away. And ever since then, people in the neighborhood have seen him. That's why no one goes near the playground at night. I don't know what I saw. I don't know if it was really him, or if my brain just filled in the blanks after hearing the story. But after that night, I stopped looking out my window after dark. And I never saw the swing move again. When I was about 8, my parents sent me to my grandmother's house for summer vacation. She lived in a quiet little village far from the city, surrounded by open fields and trees. Her house had a small playground in the backyard and a tiny farm where she grew vegetables and kept a few chickens. It was a paradise for a kid like me. I spent every day outside, running around barefoot, climbing trees and playing in the dirt. My grandmother would take pictures of me on her old camera, laughing as I tried to chase the chickens or swing as high as I could. It was one of the happiest summers of my life. But everything changed when I came back home. A few days after returning, I got sick. At first, it was just a fever, but then it got worse. Headaches, chills, nausea. My parents took me to doctors, but no one could figure out what was wrong with me. Blood tests, scans, treatments, nothing worked. I was so weak I could barely get out of bed. Weeks passed and I wasn't getting better. My parents, desperate, turned to a priest for help. He performed a few rituals, prayers, and cleansing ceremonies, and slowly my health improved. I don't remember much from that time, just flashes, dark dreams, whispers in my ear, the feeling of something heavy pressing on my chest at night. After the rituals, things went back to normal. I got better and eventually I forgot all about it, until 2 years later. One afternoon, my mom was cleaning out some old boxes, sorting things to throw away. I was sitting on the couch when she suddenly gasped. I turned to see her holding an old photograph. It was a picture of me from that summer at my grandmother's house. I was standing in the playground, grinning at the camera, but there was something wrong. Right next to me, partially rising from the ground, was a dark figure. It was blurry, like a shadow caught mid-motion, but it was there. A tall, twisted figure, its face featureless, its body half submerged in the dirt, and its hands were on my shoulders. My mom turned pale and showed me the picture. "Who is this?" she asked, her voice shaking. I had no answer. I had never seen that man before. I didn't remember anyone being there that day. Panicked, my parents called my grandmother. They told her everything, the sickness, the rituals, the picture. But my grandmother was confused. She swore she had never seen anything strange in her playground. No shadowy figure, no man half buried in the earth. She had lived there her whole life and never experienced anything unnatural. After that, we burnt that picture. I still remember that blurry figure standing next to me. It still gives me goosebumps every time I think about it. When I was a little kid, there was a playground near my house where I used to play every afternoon. It wasn't anything fancy, just a couple of swings, a slide, and a few benches where parents would sit while their kids ran around. That's where I first saw that man. The first time I noticed him, he was standing near the trees at the edge of the playground, just outside the fence. He wasn't doing anything, just standing there, watching. He was tall, dressed in dark clothes, and his face, I don't know how to explain it. It wasn't that he didn't have a face, but every time I tried to focus on it, my brain just couldn't make sense of it. Like a blur in a dream. I remember tugging on my mom's sleeve and pointing. "Who's that man?" She looked where I was pointing. Then she frowned. "There's no one there, sweetheart." I turned back, he was still there. This kept happening. Every few days I'd see him, always standing in the same spot, always watching. Sometimes he was closer. A few times he was standing by the swings. Once he was right next to the slide. Every time I'd call out to an adult. And every time they saw nothing. One day I got brave or stupid. I was playing alone when I saw him again, standing just outside the playground fence. My heart was pounding, but I forced myself to walk toward him. I don't know why. I think I just needed to know if he was real. As I got closer, something strange happened. The air felt wrong, heavy, like I was underwater. The closer I got, the harder it became to move. My vision blurred and my head started pounding. Then he moved. Not like a normal person. 1 second he was behind the fence. The next he was standing inside the playground. Right in front of me. I ran. I don't remember making it home, but somehow I did. I refused to go back to that playground after that. A few months later, my family moved, and then I never saw him again. This happened a couple of years ago when I was in college, and I still can't explain it. My roommate and I don't talk about it, but I know we both remember. It was around midterms, and we had been pulling late-night study sessions at the library. That night, we stayed way later than we planned, and by the time we packed up, campus was practically dead. The fastest way back to our dorm was through a small park near the library. It wasn't anything special, just some benches, a few streetlights, and a playground. People didn't really hang out there after dark, but we were exhausted and just wanted to get back. We got about halfway through when the streetlights started flickering. Not a casual flicker. This was weird. The lights would buzz, go dark for a second, then come back, almost in a pattern. It was fast, like something was messing with the power. My roommate and I both noticed, but neither of us said anything. We just kept walking. Then we heard it, the laughter. Not just one voice, multiple. High-pitched, happy giggling. Like kids playing on the playground. We froze. It was coming from behind us. I turned around, expecting to see a group of students messing around, maybe some kids from the neighborhood. There was no one there. The merry-go-round was turning, slow and steady. But the sand underneath? Perfectly smooth, no footprints, no signs that anyone had been there. I looked at my roommate. He looked at me, neither of us said a word. We ran. I don't remember getting back to the dorm. We just sprinted until we were inside, slammed the door, and stood there catching our breath. After that experience, my roommate and I never took that shortcut again.